Do you find yourself constantly worrying about what others think, trapped in the endless loop of pleasing everyone but yourself? The more you chase other people's approval, the further you drift from your true self. When your entire existence revolves around meeting the expectations of others, you're no longer living your own life. Most of us spend our days living through the lens of other people's opinions, always concerned with how friends, family, co-workers, and even strangers perceive us. We're terrified of rejection, judgment, and being disliked, and in that fear we slowly lose track of who we truly are. In today's video, inspired by the groundbreaking book The Courage to be Disliked by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga, we'll explore one key idea that has the potential to set you free: the concept of separation of tasks. Understanding this idea will help you finally stop carrying the burden of other people's expectations and empower you to reclaim your freedom, authenticity, and happiness. In this video, I'll show you exactly why seeking external approval can sabotage your happiness, and how adopting the practice of separation of tasks can give you back control over your life. Are you ready to stop pleasing others and start living for yourself? Let's dive right in. From the moment we're born, we're conditioned by a simple yet powerful mechanism: reward and punishment. Think back to your childhood. You did something good and you were praised. You made a mistake and you were scolded or punished. This reward-punishment system shapes us deeply, making us rely on external approval for our sense of self-worth. Over time, this reliance turns into a habit, and before we know it, we're constantly looking outward, seeking validation to feel valuable. But here's the problem. The more we rely on external validation, the more fragile our sense of self becomes. Our happiness becomes hostage to the opinions of others. Austrian psychologist Alfred Adler once profoundly observed, "It's not that people lack confidence to be themselves, rather they lack the courage to be disliked." What Adler means is clear. You may think you're insecure, but in reality your deeper fear is rejection and isolation. Deep down you're afraid of being disliked, excluded, or left behind. This fear is incredibly powerful. It compels you to silence your true feelings, suppress your genuine desires, and live your life behind a mask, just to ensure you're accepted, liked, or at the very least tolerated. Think about the times you've hesitated to express your real thoughts, afraid of disapproval or rejection. You weren't being modest. You were simply afraid to face the discomfort of being disliked. Now let's dig deeper. Why do some people become chronic people pleasers? Psychologically speaking, people-pleasing behaviors develop as a coping mechanism, an unconscious strategy to protect oneself from rejection, conflict, or abandonment. At some point in life, perhaps during childhood or adolescence, you might have learned that the safest way to avoid pain or conflict is to ensure everyone around you is happy. Over time, this protective strategy evolves into your default personality. You become hypersensitive to others' emotions, needs, and reactions. You adjust your behavior accordingly, even at the expense of your own well-being. But beneath this accommodating behavior lies a constant hidden anxiety, the fear of rejection, isolation, and being unloved. Each act of pleasing reinforces the subconscious belief, "I must please others to be accepted and valued." And that's exactly why breaking free from this cycle feels so challenging. Understanding these underlying reasons is the first step toward reclaiming control over your life. Next, we'll explore why living for others' approval is guaranteed to leave you unhappy and unfulfilled. Let's begin by facing a powerful truth shared by the late Apple founder Steve Jobs. If you want to make everyone happy, don't be a leader, sell ice cream. In other words, pleasing everyone is an impossible task. No matter how kind, capable, or thoughtful you try to be, someone somewhere will inevitably be disappointed or dissatisfied. You might have noticed this in your own life. Despite your best efforts, there's always someone who's unhappy with your choices. When you base your self-worth on making everyone around you happy, you set yourself up for constant frustration, disappointment, and self-doubt. It's like chasing a moving target. You'll never truly succeed. Think about your own experiences. Have you ever stayed late at work, sacrificing personal time, family events, or your health just because you couldn't say no to your boss or colleagues? Have you ever stayed in a relationship where your partner's needs and desires consistently overshadowed your own, fearing rejection if you spoke up? In both cases, you're essentially giving up pieces of your own life, happiness, and freedom to fulfill someone else's expectations. You're living a life designed by others, not by you. The painful truth is that by living this way, you're paying the cost of someone else's priorities, ambitions, and dreams, while your own goals and happiness slowly fade away. The reality behind people-pleasing is far darker than simply being overly nice. At its core, it's an endless cycle of self-denial. Here's how it usually unfolds. You do something nice, expecting gratitude or recognition, but instead people take your kindness for granted or offer little acknowledgement. Instead of receiving the approval you crave, you're met with silence, or worse, criticism. This lack of appreciation doesn't stop you, though. It makes you even more determined to seek approval, driving you into deeper cycles of sacrifice. Each time you fail to get the expected reaction, you blame yourself. You think, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I didn't do enough. As the resentment builds, you begin to feel undervalued, overlooked, and misunderstood. Yet trapped in the cycle, you continue repeating these behaviors, secretly hoping that the next sacrifice will finally earn the recognition you desire. This self-denial feeds an ever-growing inner resentment, bitterness, and unhappiness, making genuine happiness almost impossible. But there is a way out of this cycle, and it starts with one powerful idea from the courage to be disliked. Learning how to clearly separate what's your responsibility from what isn't. Next, we'll dive into the life-changing concept known as the separation of tasks. What exactly is separation of tasks? At the heart of the groundbreaking book, The Courage to be Disliked, is a life-changing concept called the separation of tasks. Simply put, separation of tasks means clearly identifying what tasks belong to you and what tasks belong to others. In other words, it's about recognizing what you're responsible for, and equally important, what you're not. When you master this idea, it fundamentally changes your perspective on life, freeing you from unnecessary stress and anxiety that comes from trying to manage everyone else's feelings, choices, and judgments. The reason so many people struggle emotionally is because they constantly take on tasks that aren't theirs to carry. They worry endlessly about what others think, whether people approve of them, or how others might react to their decisions. Think about it clearly. Whether someone else likes you or not is actually their task, not yours. It's their responsibility, influenced by their personal beliefs, experiences, and judgments. You can't control it, no matter how hard you try. When you cross this boundary attempting to influence someone else's task, you automatically set yourself up for stress, disappointment, and frustration, precisely because you're attempting something that's beyond your control. Consider this simple scenario. Imagine you did your absolute best to help a friend. Yet despite your efforts, your friend still isn't happy. Your initial reaction might be guilt, anxiety, or frustration. But pause and think clearly. Your responsibility was your own action, doing your best. Your friend's reaction, on the other hand, is completely their task, not yours. By trying to take on your friend's response as your responsibility, you're burdening yourself with stress that doesn't belong to you. This misplaced responsibility is precisely why you suffer. Now that you understand why task separation is essential, let's talk about how to apply it practically. The easiest and most effective way to implement this is to simply ask yourself one crucial question whenever you're feeling anxious or overwhelmed. Is the outcome of this situation my task or someone else's task? This question forces clarity. If the outcome depends on your own actions, then yes, this is your task. But if the outcome depends on someone else's decisions, thoughts, or emotions, then it's clearly their task, not yours. Here's how you can use it practically. Suppose you're nervous before a presentation, worried about how people will perceive you. Ask yourself, is how others perceive my presentation my task or their task? You'll realize your task is simply to prepare and deliver your presentation well. How others respond, that's their task, and not within your control. Task separation isn't just a theoretical idea, it's a daily practice. It means actively choosing to let go of responsibilities that belong to others. It means gently but firmly saying no when others try to place their emotional burdens on you, and clearly stating where your boundaries lie. By consistently practicing this concept, you'll find yourself less stressed, less anxious, and more authentically yourself, because you're no longer carrying burdens that were never yours to bear. Now that you've learned to separate your tasks clearly from others, let's explore practical strategies to break free from people-pleasing and start living a life that's genuinely yours. The first step towards breaking free from the trap of pleasing others is simple but powerful. You must genuinely accept that it's impossible to make everyone happy. And that's perfectly okay. Start small. Every day practice saying no to just one thing you genuinely don't want to do. Something you'd normally say yes to out of fear of disappointing others. This might mean politely declining a social invitation when you're exhausted. Saying no to additional work that doesn't belong to you. Expressing your true opinion in a conversation, even if it differs from others. Each small act of bravery reinforces your confidence, showing you that it's safe and even empowering to stand your ground. The second step involves rebuilding your inner sense of worth, one that's independent of what others think of you. Here's a simple but highly effective exercise. Every day, write down at least 3 qualities or achievements you genuinely appreciate about yourself. These can be small or large. For example, I stayed calm during a difficult conversation today. I completed an important task despite feeling stressed. I showed kindness and patience to someone who needed it. Doing this daily exercise gradually shifts your focus away from external validation towards internal acknowledgement. Over time, you'll realize that your true value doesn't come from others. It comes directly from how you see yourself. Next, consciously shift your mindset from worrying about what you'll get from others, like approval or praise, to thinking about how you can positively impact their lives. Ask yourself regularly, what positive influence or value can I offer those around me? Instead of thinking, will they like me? Shift your question to, how can I be helpful or supportive in a way that's meaningful to me? This mindset shift transforms your interactions from anxiety-driven attempts at approval to genuine and meaningful contributions. You'll quickly notice that when you stop chasing approval, your relationships naturally become healthier, more authentic, and fulfilling. Finally, clearly define and reinforce your personal boundaries. Remind yourself consistently, what others think and feel about me is always their task, never mine. Their opinions do not define my worth. Use this principle actively in your daily interactions. At work, calmly and politely clarify your responsibilities, declining tasks that clearly belong to someone else. In relationships, gently but firmly communicate your boundaries when someone tries to push their emotional tasks onto you. For example, you might say, Anna, I understand you're upset and I'm here to support you, but ultimately how you choose to feel or respond is your responsibility. By clearly defining and respectfully communicating these boundaries, you reinforce the separation of tasks principle. You'll find yourself more emotionally stable, empowered, and authentically yourself because you're no longer absorbing stress and expectations that don't belong to you. Now that we've covered concrete steps to escape the trap of people-pleasing, it's time to reclaim your life and start living according to your own values and truths. Throughout this video, we've explored one crucial idea. Real freedom in life comes when you accept that not everyone will like you, and that's okay. Your true value doesn't depend on external approval, but on living authentically according to your own principles. Now it's your turn to take action. Starting today, let go of tasks that aren't yours to carry. Stop trying to manage how others see you, what they think of you, or whether they accept you. Instead, take back control of your life, your happiness, and your choices. Remember the powerful words of the philosopher Socrates. An unexamined life is not worth living. I encourage you right now to examine your own life honestly. Are you living for yourself or merely for the approval of others? Take the first step today to break free from people-pleasing, reclaim your life, and start living with true courage, the courage to be disliked. Your real life begins the moment you embrace who you genuinely are.